Hey, have you ever heard of the protocols of the learned elders of Zion? Well, even if you haven't, you've almost certainly ran into conspiracy theories inspired by it. But what is it? Right lies in might. Freedom, an idea only. Liberalism, gold, faith, self-government, despotism of capital, the internal foe, the mob, anarchy, politics versus morals, the right of the strong, the invincibility of Jew Masonic authority. These are the very first words in the protocols of the learned elders of Zion, and they offer a very concise, if comically fragmented, summary of the document as a whole. Authoritarianism is the only valid form of governance. Freedom equals bad. Control the money to control the people, and on and on and on and on and on. Looking at modern militia culture, QAnon circles, and with a little extrapolation, anti-vax and poisoning the well-style conspiracies, the globalists, it's very easy to draw lines straight from these modern-day conspiracies to the protocols of the learned elders of Zion. The protocols are an anti-Semitic document of unknown authorship, first appearing in an abbreviated form in 1903 in the Russian newspaper Znamya and republished in 1905. Henry Ford, revered American automobile tycoon and raging anti-Semite, republished them in his private newspaper, Dearborn Independent, and in 2020, the official Twitter account of the Federal Bureau of Investigation tweeted the entire document, as well as several of the agency's files on it, totaling 139 pages. It must be noted that men with bad instincts are more in number than the good, and therefore the best results in governing them are attained by violence and terrorization, and not by academic discussions, states the protocols, which claim to be the retelling of meetings between Freemasons and Jews occurring during the First Zionist Congress in 1897. Astute viewers will note that both Freemasons and Jewish people are perennial boogeymen, especially in Christian circles. It's also noteworthy that many of the conspiracies presented in the protocols are not original, but collections of older anti-Semitic tropes anthologized and presented as a cohesive document. It's widely speculated that the protocols were authored and disseminated by members of the Russian government, cobbled together and plagiarized largely from the dialogue in Hell between Machiavelli and Montesquieu, originally authored by Maurice Joly. Ever since the days when Christians were denied usury by their own religious texts, the success of Jewish people has stoked hatred towards them. This specific aspect of anti-Semitism, the weaponization and control of finance and wealth, is the second protocol listed in this tome. Now, I'm going to read a bit of a lengthy passage from the very beginning of this section, but I do think that it's worth the time for how well it really crams a lot of these racist ideas into a few sentences. It is indispensable for our purpose that wars, so far as possible, should not result in territorial gains. War will thus be brought onto the economic ground, where the nations will not fail to perceive in the assistance we give the strength of our predominance, and this state of things will put both sides at the mercy of our international agentur, which possesses millions of eyes, ever on the wealth, and unhampered by any limitations whatsoever. Our international rights will then wipe out national rights, in the proper sense of right, and will rule the nations precisely as the civil law of states rule the relations of their subjects among themselves. Now, that's a lot of words to say that economic warfare is preferred over physical combat and more useful in the long term. The Jewish banker, the moneylender, the greedy Jew, all sorts of other anti-Semitic conspiracies have combined together to form this idea of the international Jewish conspiracy, and thanks to the protocols, it's now been canonized and codified in an easily digestible pamphlet. We see echoes of this today, not only in modern anti-Semitism, but also in dog whistle terms like globalists. I mentioned earlier that the protocols were first published in 1903, and that is important to remember. The Chisinau pogrom occurred in 1903, the Kiev pogrom in 1905, and the Bialystok pogrom in 1906. These three pogroms killed at least 233 Jewish people and terrorized thousands more all around Eurasia. Despite being thoroughly debunked in 1912 as a compounded forgery of Dialogue in Hell, a novel called Biarritz, and other sources, the protocols have maintained a stronghold in the modern world. In the sixth protocol, it is stated that all our newspapers will be of all possible complexions: aristocratic, republican, revolutionary, even anarchical, for so long, of course, as the Constitution exists. Like the Indian idol Vishnu, they will have 100 hands, and every one of them will have a finger on any one of the public opinions as required. Now, compared to Dialogue in Hell, Machiavelli states, "Like the god Vishnu, my press would have 100 arms, and these arms would place their hands upon all the nuances of opinion throughout the entire country." There are other sources which go much further in depth, laying out specific instances of plagiarism, so I won't belabor that point too much here. But we still see thoughts like this today in talk of Jewish-controlled media, liberal Hollywood, backlash against the woke mind virus, and even the conspiracy that pornography is pushed upon the Goyim by Jewish people to placate and mollify them. This is another instance of ancient racism and bigotry coalescing into a solidified document that was able to be spread around easily. We also find the seeds of the modern hatred of collectivism and socialism, and the claim that these ideologies are in moral opposition to the concept of having a family. To secure the Masonic coup d'etat, we must have everybody vote without distinction of classes and qualifications, in order to establish an absolute majority which cannot be got from the educated propertied classes. In this way, by inculcating in all a sense of self-importance, we shall destroy among the Goyim the importance of the family and its educational value. Many of the ideas put forth in this propagandistic nightmare of a volume resonate powerfully today, with everyone from white nationalists to extremists in Arabic nations. It's still widely printed in Orthodox Russian circles as well. Over the years, it's been expanded upon, morphed, repackaged, and sold again and again to sow hatred and fear of Jewish people. Any reading of this text will reveal the transparency with which modern-day media figures such as Alex Jones or Glenn Beck draw their worldview almost directly from these pages. Now, there's always a lot more to say about things like this, but I'm going to encourage you to check out some of the sources listed in the description below if you want to find out more, because as always, this is just a snippet.